Welcome back. This is part 2 of our Cessna cylinder rebuild, and I think we're ready to put everything back together. We got our new seal kit, which I showed you a picture of in the last video, and I went ahead and painted the hard to get to places, like on the back side of this piece here, and then painted this little retaining ring deal. So we'll put those on in a minute. I guess I was going to point out, there you can see it says Cessna, made in USA. So there we go. In case you didn't know, there was a connection between an airplane manufacturer and Oliver Tractors. There you go. They made a lot of hydraulic components. They had a hydraulics division, and eventually I think it was bought out by Eaton, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, that's why it's a Cessna type cylinder. So let's start putting it together. We're going to start with this. If you take this off, don't forget to put it on first, because otherwise you're going to have to take everything back apart to put that on there. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to put the seals in this head end. So we need to get the seals out that are in there, and then we'll put this in and put it on, because it's what goes on next. Don't put the piston together and put it on, because you have to put this on first. So I like to start with this so you don't forget to slide that on there and then have to take something back apart again. There we go. Don't be afraid to destroy it. You've got a new one. You want to be careful though, because you don't want to really mar this up real bad, so proceed with caution while you're doing that. Got some dirt in here still. All right. Now we have to get this seal out of the inside of here. And it's probably going to just come out in pieces. Look at that. Come on. Come on. Look at that. What a mess. I mentioned in the, well, I guess it was the video that you didn't get to see because I accidentally erased it. But be a little wary of buying a seal kit if you can find an original Oliver seal kit, you know, on some dealer shelf. Because these things definitely have a shelf life, and you can see what kind of shape that's in, and just because it's been new in the package, age is really what does this more than anything. So I would say just buy new ones. Don't buy an original seal kit, or you're going to just be doing something twice. And this is kind of nasty in here. I mean, there's little pieces of it. I'm going to have to work for just a little bit here and get this scraped out of here, because there's no way you could put a new one in with all this stuff hanging on. Ooh. Gotta get it from both sides too, because there's some hanging on that front lip. Let's hit it with a shot of cleaner here. Get it cleaned up a little. And we still got a little bit of trash down in there. We need to get that all cleaned up before we even attempt to put a new one in. We're going to just defeat our purpose. Nasty. Okay. I still feel a little something hanging on in there. It's just like going to the dentist. I've got the same little thing and scraping away. Tell this cylinder that it hasn't been brushing often enough. All right. I think we got this clean inside there. All right. Then we cannot forget about our little O-ring on the outside here. That also needs to come off. Also, don't forget, behind the O-ring is this backup ring. And take note that it is towards the outside. Its job is to help stiffen up that O-ring so that it doesn't just blow past. So remember, that goes on first, then your O-ring. Or depending on which way you put it on, I would assume you would go over the short side, but some people like to do things the hard way. So anyway, we'll probably gently clean this up a little bit before we start putting it back together, just to make it easier to slide in the barrel. There's a little bit of accumulation of garbage, so we'll find something and work on that just a minute. All right, now we're ready for probably the hardest part of the whole deal, and that is getting this seal inside of this head end. It is just a lot of work sometimes. They make a tool where you can actually like squeeze this and it'll fold up on itself, but it is a very stiff seal and it's going to take a lot of patience. There's also, I should note, inside of it is an O-ring to provide some stiffening so that it doesn't just, you know, flake off or whatever. But this is very stout and it's going to take quite a bit of effort to get it in there. Okay, so we're going to put this in. Take note of which way it's supposed to go in there. You want the numbered side forward, I guess you'd say, so that the lip is towards the pressure. So we're going to lube this up just to hopefully make it easier. Sometimes it's easier to go from the front, sometimes it's easier to go the long way. It just depends. This is a very time-consuming and sometimes frustrating process, which we are no stranger to here on this channel. And I wish I could tell you there was a similar way to do it every time, but if you don't have the tools, you got to do it by hand like this. This is why you want to make sure you have it oriented right the first time, because this is a pain to get in there and you don't want to have to try to get it out again. Hopefully we didn't just pop the backup ring out. That happens sometime. Then you got to start over. Come on, doll baby. Come on. Come on. Come on. There we go. There we go. We're getting it. It's going. Don't let it tell you it's not. Almost there. We're just twisted a little bit. We can get it below the... You have to be careful when you're using a screwdriver or something too, because if you poke it and cut it, then you're done. I mean, you don't want to do too bad here. Here we go. I think we got it. Maybe. It's not quite right. Figure out why that is. Why is it not in there quite perfectly? There. Ooh. There, come on. Almost. Now you can see we got it in there. Hope you can see that. I know my lighting's not very good in here, but trust me, it's in there. And it's the way it should be, sitting flush, and so I think we're in good shape. So next we'll put in this wiper seal that's out here, and that is no big deal. Take note that in this case with the wiper seal, you want the flat side down because you want it to rake the dirt off before it comes in. So we're going to lay that in there, and so we are going to take something that's flat like this seal driver, and that way we can hopefully get this started evenly. Maybe not, but we'll see. How did we do? I think we did fine. It's down all the way to the bottom. Now we need to put our O-ring and backup ring on here. So we need to sort through our bag here and see what we got. We've got our 2 wear rings, and we've got our piston seal, and we've got 2 O-rings they gave us. But this, remember, is on here like this. Oop, I didn't get that quite right. There we go. There we go. We're going to put this in here. Come on. There we go. And now that should be an assembly that's ready to go back on the rod. So to do that, you want to make sure that you just grease the heck out of this, because you don't want to cut anything while you're sliding it on there. So don't be stingy with the grease. Lube it right up. We'll lube the outside when we put it in the barrel later. Now we're gonna just carefully work this on here. I'll have to set you down so I can get a free hand here. Well, it feels good. You can see our wiper seal doing its job. So we'll leave that on here for now. I think we're in good shape with it. I don't see any little Teflon-y pieces or rubber chunks. That's good. So we got the head end slid on there, and it feels good, like it's supposed to. I also forgot to mention, you should probably, when you're putting this O-ring on, match it up and make sure that you didn't use the wrong one, because there are two in there that are very similar. One of them goes underneath the piston seal, which you'll see in a minute. So that's one thing to note. Otherwise, now we're ready to work on the piston. Now we're going to move on to the piston itself. We have an O-ring in here to get out. We have two wear rings, and then the actual seal in the middle. So we'll work at that now. So these wear rings, that's simple. They're split. All you got to do is just get them off of here. So that's off. Take that one off. And our piston seal will probably be the most difficult one to get off. Take a pick, you can dig down in it, get under it. And if you break it, that's fine. We're replacing it. And behind it is another backup O-ring. So you're going to want to watch when you put that on the head end that you get the right one, that you don't have the I think they're just a little bit smaller on this one than it is on the other one. And we got that inner O-ring. Now we're ready to clean this up, and we'll start putting new stuff on it. Okay, I think we'll put the one inside first so we don't forget about that. And it shouldn't be that difficult to get this in. O-rings are pliable, not like that head seal or rod seal a while ago. So we got that snapped right in there. We'll give it a little bit of grease just to, so we don't forget about it. Now we might as well start by putting our O-ring in here. Now I'm going to go ahead and put this on over top of that O-ring, just because if I do it with the wear rings on, that's one more thing I got to worry about. So we're gonna take this a little at a time here, get it into that groove, and then try to flip it up. And we got to be ever so gentle so that we don't end up tearing this. Otherwise everything we've done is for nothing. So we got to just gently go around. It's like mounting a tire. Gently go around. Not prying too much. Working it around. Getting it to jump in. Come on. Okay. Now, we want to make sure that it's sitting in there flush, which it's not doing. We need to try to gently go around now. Push it the rest of the way in. Using your finger more than a tool if possible. I think we got that all the way around here. And if you'll notice, it is actually proud of the steel here. And I've got a trick to help us assemble that. I'll show you here in a minute. So next thing we're going to do is put our two wear rings on. That's no big deal. They just snap right on. Now we'll put the piston back on the rod and tighten the nut up. Take note of which way this was too, because you don't want to trust it, but usually the flat side is towards the rod, but you got to just pay attention while you're taking it apart. So we got the nut tight, and now it's time for the trick that I promised you on how to get this compressed down where it's not going to cut itself when it goes into the barrel. First, we'll take a little of our grease and lube this up just to make sure that while we're doing what we do, we don't cause any damage to anything. So that's done. Now what you're going to want is your generic store brand 2-liter pop bottle. Now this is not the official drink of this channel. The official drink, of course, is the Mountain Dew, but for this job, we're going to use the store brand cherry cola bottle. And what we need to do is cut us a plastic sleeve that'll fit around this cylinder, or the piston, I should say. So we're going to take our high capacity pocket knife that was in our rollaway box, and we're going to stab it towards our leg, hoping that we don't go all the way through. And if you do this right, look, now we have a funnel. How about that? 2 for 1. Great. Now I'll probably switch to the scissors. Good old hobo freight scissors. They really work good. Now we know that it's going to have to wrap around, so we'll just cut a slit here. Take the label and all. It's fine. It'll come off in a minute. There we go. Now they taught us in kindergarten that neatness counts, so we'll trim the edges. And we'll peel off our label so you can see what's going on. Now the next piece in our puzzle, after we put this around here like so, we're going to need hose clamps. If you don't have one big enough to go around the whole thing, you're going to have to tie 2 together, which is what I'm going to have to do here. That's not necessarily ideal, but I don't have one big enough on hand. Okay, then you're going to take your hose clamp. If you had to put 2 together, that's fine. You want to get it right over top of the part we're trying to compress. And then we're going to just tighten this down. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to leave it. We're not going to touch it. We're going to go away and do something else. And when we come and take that off, it should be compressed enough that it will slide right into the bore, and then later on it will kind of re-expand itself and be fine. But this way, it seems like you don't have as much trouble with accidentally cutting any of your seal, because if you do that, then everything was for nothing. So we will let that sit and we'll come back to it later. While we're waiting on that to compress, we can put our new seals on this rod, and if you see, there is an O-ring and a backup ring on this too. So pay attention to what order stuff came off so you can put it back the same way. That one I broke, but that's fine. Okay, so we got our new little backup ring. Oop, jumping away from me. We'll put that on there. Slide it back. Put our O-ring on. And that should be ready. We'll lube that up before we put it back together. And we'll set this barrel aside, I think. Now we've got 2 more seals left, and that is on this little plunger. And we'll put this O-ring on. I don't know that I'm going to put the seal on the plunger. It looks pretty good. It's very much of a pain to get it on there because it's so small. But we might tackle it. I don't know. So that's on there. Oh boy, do we want to try it or not? I really don't. I think I'm just going to leave it. This other one is not too bad because it doesn't stand full pressure all the time. It's only whenever you have it, you know, the stop collar pushes it down. So it's still pliable. I think I'm just going to leave it, and I'll save the other one. If I have to change it later, I will. But we'll call that good, and then this is ready to put back in as well. It goes in our piece here. And we'll tighten it down. There we go. And we should be in business on that. Hydraulic pressure is what resets this pin. So when the stop collar pushes it in, then the hydraulic pressure coming through shoves it back out. So if you were wondering about that, that's how that goes. So I'm thinking we might call this the end of part 2. And next time we'll put it together and we'll try to hook up some hoses and see what kind of work we did. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.